Thank you. Thank you, Irving. Thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here in front of all of you. First of all, yeah, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate every single one of you as veterans because I personally am a patriot. I am not a veteran, but I respect you and I love you. And that's why I came here today is to help you, to hopefully give you some tools, some information, or some support to help to make your life better because that's what I'm all about. That's what my mission is in life now. Like as Irving said, I'm a serial business builder. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I started, in the car business, selling, buying and selling cars. I started with one $1,600 car. I was trying to figure out how to pay my way through school, and I bought and sold that car. And then I got two cars, and then I got 10 cars, and then I got a car dealership, and it kept growing and growing. By the time I graduated, I couldn't get a job that paid me more money. And so I went with that, build car businesses, and then went on, got recruited into a renewable energy company, and I built multiple businesses from there. And I've been able to work with amazing, amazing people throughout my career. But I've been studying these thought leaders and these people my whole entire life. And I've put together a framework that I use. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it today. It's something I teach in my academy called Formula EQ. Now, for those of you who don't know what EQ is, EQ is emotional intelligence. So we all know what the IQ is, right? We got the Albert Einsteins and the geniuses of the world, the Elon Musks and people like that, the IQ. But there's also the EQ. So the IQ is the cognitive and the EQ is emotional. And we have that intellectual quotient and that emotional quotient. But I'm going to dive into more of what that means and what that can do by building that in your life. But what I want to talk to you today is about harnessing your personal power. See, we have this personal power that we have in the world, and it creates how we show up. It creates how we operate. It creates how we work. And we can use our personal power to help us, to serve us in our life. And so that's why I want to hopefully teach you today are some ideas around this and something that'll support you to deal with challenges, to help to bolster your life and to help you to live the way that you actually want to live. And so that's what it's about for me, is living a life of intention. So what is personal power? So personal power is these things that affect us. So there's situations out there, there's stuff that happens out there in the world, and we have a reaction to these things. We have an interaction that we're actually connected to with these things that are out there happening in the world. So we have an event like, and we can either choose to attach to that event or we can choose to not attach to that event. But there's this connection between us and what's happening in the world. And so that's where we have this power. It's the relationship of us to the connection of what's happening in the world and how we attach to that. So I'm going to expound on kind of some of what these things are, these personal power areas. So some of them are things. So there are things like we all love stuff, right? We all have our things that we love. Like I said, like we talked about in the beginning a little bit, I'm a car nut. So here's a couple of my cars I've had or different things, but we always have these things in life. And maybe it's a passion, maybe it's a hobby. Maybe you want to go fishing down at the, lake, or maybe it's your gun collection or whatever it is. We have these things, around us are important to us. And sometimes these things can actually control our personal power. So like let's say if someone came today and they took your house, right? That's a thing. A house is a thing. Or it could be your car. If someone came and they took your car today, then what would that do? How would that make you feel? Well, we have this attachment that we create to these things. And some of those things might devastate you, if they were removed from your life, if they're damaged, if they're thrown away, if they're taken. These things are really important to you. But other things, wouldn't even matter. You could throw them away or it'd be missing, and it literally wouldn't even change how you think, how you wake up, what your thoughts are. So we have these things and we create these bonds, we create these connections with these things, and we have this relationship, this involvement with these things, right? next part is, and those things actually control. So they control how we show up. They control what we think. They control how we act. They control all these different things around us that we don't even realize is happening. So there's opinions, right? Opinions out there in the world. So this is another space of personal power. We go, okay, everyone has their opinion. You know, we have these different opinions. And have you ever had someone say something? I know we've all had it, right? We've all had someone say something where they message or they make some comment and you're like, why did you say that? And it just pisses you off. It just bugs you on the inside, or it hurts your feelings and it makes you feel sad. It makes you feel off, you know, but it's something, you know, that's someone else's opinion, someone else's thought, someone else's programming, and they share that with you and it just throws you off. It's just like, no, I'm not going to take that. So we have these things and it happens. So there's different places that happen. So it happens in person. You could be in a, you know, conversation with someone that, you know, I had a client, I do one-on-one coaching with people and I help people to overcome traumas and past experiences in life and move forward and gain their personal power back, which is some of the things I'm talking about today. But I had one of my clients she went through a traumatic situation. She had a son that was sexually abused by her spouse for most portion of her marriage. And when she found out, she got divorced and put the guy in jail. But the son was very mentally disturbed from that and later committed suicide. So she had a lot of things that happened to her, real serious situations in life that people deal with. But her neighbor suggested a show. She was with her neighbor and great friends with her neighbor across the street. And the neighbor came up to her and said, hey, I've got this great show on Netflix you should watch. She said, oh, yeah, what is it? She said, oh, it's this show. And she said, what's it about? She said, it's about a son that commits suicide and how suicide is okay. And as soon as she heard that thing, that opinion, that comment that someone else said threw her off. And she was pissed. She was irate. You can see why, you can understand. But so we have these things, we have these opinions, we have these comments that come from other people, right? And they can actually change our experience in life. They can change how we show up with other people in the day. And so what it is, though, is it's a perspective, right? So we all have a perspective. We have a perspective that we're operating in, and it actually changes how we see the world. Now, when my client had this interaction, you know, she had been through things that shaped her perspective to think that, you know, I don't want to hear about these types of shows. I don't want to hear. And she had a feeling about it. Now, that changed how she actually viewed the world. You know, that she viewed the world from her perspective, and her view actually looked different than the other person that was watching the show because she didn't have that same understanding. So we have these things, right, that happen to us, and they actually change the way that we see the world. It's like putting on glasses. Like I put on my glasses and it actually changes how I see the world. And we have these filters of these experiences and these things that we've been through in life, and they create how we show up. They create how we show up, but also they create how other people show up and how other people are showing up in our life. And through these experiences that we gain these perspectives. Through these experiences, we start to build an algorithm of how we operate to go, no, I want to see the world. I want to see the world through red. I want to look at the world through red, you know, because I think it should be red and I feel like it's red, and, you know, a lot of things that, you know, so we have this algorithm, right, that we actually built in our mind. It's an algorithm. I call it algorithm. It can be changed, but we have a way of programming where these situations come up and we have a response. So we make these connections. We make these connections because we're comparative learning machines, basically. The human mind just constantly is comparing and measuring and comparing and measuring. And so we're taking these little bits of information that come into our lives and we're trying to make sense of it. And so we take it and we attach it to something else and we go, okay, that's real. Now, when we decide that's real, then that becomes part of our programming. It becomes part of our algorithm. And so it's like we have these different understandings in life that happen, these different programs in life that happen. And you can have different fears of things. You can have different things. It's like when you're a kid, you have a perspective, like your bedroom's scary, like, oh, the lights are off and now it's scary. Now maybe there's monsters under my bed, but when you get older, your perspective changes. You realize, the monsters aren't under my bed. Now maybe there's bad guys somewhere else in the world, right? You have a different perspective. But from that perspective, you don't have a fear that, some monster is going to grab your leg when you stand up out of your bed at night to go to the bathroom. So your perspective actually changes. And also the programming changes with your perspective. So, we go through these things, these situations in life, and we create these correlations. We create these connections. The connections of the thoughts build the programming that makes up the way that we see the world. And we also have blind spots too. So we have our perspective, right? We have our area that we can see, but we can see it from there. And there's also things that we can't see, like the stuff behind me, right? The stuff that I can't see, like there's the stuff that we know. So like, I know that I can count to 2, right? Not a big task. Hopefully you all can too. I know, and there's things that you don't know. Like I know I can speak English, but I know I don't know how to speak Chinese. I know I don't know that. But then there's the things that you don't know that you don't know. And it's the stuff that's out of your perspective. It's the stuff that you can't see. It's the stuff that looks a little bit different from someone else's view. And it's those things where we need understanding, and we need, to really have that connection, because it is different and you can't change other people's thoughts. And that's okay. That's what makes the world amazing. That's what makes the world so special, is, to have all these different things. So there's also losses of power that happen from events, right? So there's events that we can go through in life that are incredibly challenging, like the event I mentioned earlier with one of my clients where her son committed suicide. That's an event where someone goes through and they create some thoughts around it, right? They create some feelings around it. They create some emotions around it. And when people go through an event like that, when people go through something in their life and they don't do anything to remove the programming from that event that happened, then they tend to carry it with them the rest of their life, or they tend to carry it with them through these things. And it becomes part of their algorithm, it becomes part of your algorithm on how you respond to things. So you can think about this. You can think about the things that you went through in your life, and you go, how did that change the way I show up? How did that change the way I think? Because when we go through an event, and we have a choice. We have a choice to connect to it, or we have a choice to reject it. And that choice is ours, actually. And a lot of times we don't even realize it. We're confused our connection with this relationship. And we think, oh, this happened. Now I have to feel a certain way. So we get tricked and we go, okay, now I lost my job, right? That's an event, right? I lost my job. So now I've got to feel stressed out. Now I got to feel inadequate. Now I feel like I'm not good enough. Why'd they fire me? And we trick ourselves. We fool ourselves into thinking that we're part of the event. And maybe you got fired because the company is under fire and they don't have enough money to keep you there. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. There's different things, but we connect ourselves. We create these connections to these things and we tie onto it and we bring it into our operating system and we take it on as truth. Now, I went through something in my life. So like I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been very successful, but I've also failed really hard. And those failures have taught me some of the most important things I've gone through in my life. I had an event where I was running my car dealerships. I was growing. I was expanding. We were rocking. Everything was great in life. And all of a sudden, I had 2 companies financing inventory. And one of the companies came in and got acquired. It got acquired by someone who was a fierce competitor of the other company that was financing me. And because they found out I was working with the other companies, they said, no, we're not going to work with you. And they shut down $1 million foreign financing overnight for me. And it put me through the ringer. It put me through so much pressure that actually caused that car dealership to shut down. So I had a choice. I had a choice, like we all have a choice where we have these events in our life. And I had a choice to either shut down with it and become a failure, or to do something about it and reposition myself. And through that experience, I learned something in my life. I learned something in my life that changed everything. See, I've been an obsessive learner of all these thought leaders, of all these amazing people. I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar when I was 16 years old. I flew to Atlanta and I walked on the coals, and I've been a thought leader, follower of all these people. I worked with Mark Victor Hansen. Mark Victor Hansen wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul books, and 1 Minute Millionaire, Latin Factor, Power of Focus, and 59 New York Times #1 bestsellers. But I'd gone through all these things. I'd learned all these things, but there was one key thing that I was missing. I was missing from all these teachings, all these learnings. And it's what I'm sharing with you today. And it was the key paradigm shift in my life when I realized that I wasn't a failure and the thing around me failed. It was the business that failed, and it wasn't me that was a failure. And actually, not only wasn't me that was a failure, I was a creator. I was a creator of every single thing that had happened in that company. I was a creator of every single thing that was good in that business. I was a creator of everything. And by realizing this and recognizing this, it gave me the ability to move past it and respond. It gave me the ability to move past it and deal with life and do something, make something happen, make a difference in life. And it brought that power back in my life. That's why I call it loss of power. That's why I talk about the power of you. That's why I talk about all these different things, because we have these moments, we have these events in our life, and sometimes these events can break us. I know when I was going through that and I didn't realize that understanding, I felt the weight of the world. I felt like I was a failure. I was at a point where I had tons of employees. Everyone was relying on me. I had all this pressure on me, and I felt like I was breaking. And getting through that, I was in a space where I couldn't actually operate. Right when we're in that space, we're in a space where we can't function, we can't move, we're tired, we're depressed. We don't want to wake up. We don't want to go talk to people. We don't want to even try. Right. So how do we get out of that? How do we reposition that? How do we gain an understanding of all this stuff so that we can show up and be powerful in our life? So we have a role, right? We have a role that we play in it. Now, the situations in life are all different, right? And I went through, things with my financial, parts of business. I went through things in personal things. You've all been through different things in life. You've all been through moments that have been really challenging, really tough, and you've created a connection to those things that you've been through, like we just talked about. But this is the thing that's the same with the human experience. This is the thing that connects everyone together in the world. Doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your political preference, doesn't matter all those things, right, that tend to divide people in the world today. It's the human experience. The human experience is actually the exact same. It's just the details are different. And what I mean by that is we have these details that show up around us in our life, like these challenges or these things I was mentioning, but they're processed the same. So it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter who you are. We all feel sadness. We all feel hurt. We all feel joy. We all feel love. We all feel anger. That is the common thread between human existence. It doesn't matter who you are. So we have these things that happen, right? And we have a response. We have an emotion. We have something that's created inside of us. It's created inside of us, and we actually are the ones that create it. We're the only ones that create it. And so that's what I want to teach you today, is that we are the only ones that actually create these emotions inside of us. And it has to do with how we connect to that situation, that event, that thing, that opinion that's coming around us. So So all the human experience is the same. And that makes humanity exactly the same. That makes the things that we go through on a personal level, even though your job may be different, even though whatever the detail may be different, it's the same. We go through the same thing and we're connected together. And that's that commonality between humans. And so what I like to use is the measurement. You go, okay, well, how am I doing, Preston? You told me all this stuff, like, is kind of a lot, like, how do I know where I'm at? Right. So it's a measurement, right? We have measurement. So it's okay to feel different things. It's okay to feel however you want. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you feel sad. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you get pissed off, right? It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you have emotions. That's human, right? But so when is it an issue? So the issue comes down to when it changes you when you don't want to be changed. So when you hear about something, you feel sad and you process that, you go, okay, one of my friends is dying or one of my friends passed away. That's sad. Like, I respect them. I love them. I think about them. I have that memory for them. But how long does that change you from operating the way that you want to operate? Is it 1 minute? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 2 days? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a year? Is it 5 years? Is it 30 years? I have people that I've talked to that have a situation happen in life. Oh, that person made me so mad. It's going to take me 2 days to calm down. Well, if you said that, then you're right. Because no one else can actually decide that for you. No one else actually has the power to choose that for you. And if you choose to be mad for 2 days, you're going to be mad for 2 days. Now, we have these things that happen in our life, like serious events, like the one I mentioned earlier with my client in that traumatic situation that child went through, and no child should ever have to go through as a kid. But people do, unfortunately. So we have these things that happen to us. And if we don't fix those things, sometimes that time continues forever until we fix it. So I had a client I was working with that had anxiety. He's had anxiety his whole life. He's the CEO of a company. He's diagnosed ADHD, ADD, anxiety. He has fierce anxiety attacks, so much that they're actually disabling and hospitalize him and put him into a situation that's, a really hyper stressed state. He had anxiety for 30 years because he went through a traumatic situation where he had his fiance die in front of him on a treadmill. And now every time he's near a hospital, he shuts down. He couldn't actually function. He couldn't walk. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't do all these different things. And every time he had to go to a hospital checkup, just a medical checkup with the doctor, he would go in a near panic state. His blood pressure would be, 170 higher. His heart rate is off the charts. And we worked through this. And he had been going through this on prescription medication for over 30 years, dealing with this. We went back and we reconstructed his understanding of these situations that had happened, that had triggered this anxiety. And he was actually able to come off of prescriptions. In 1 month, he was able to get rid of prescriptions that he had been on for over 30 years. That's a problem with prescriptions. Sometimes we need medical things, right? But when we go to doctors, they don't fix us. They give us Band-Aids. Prescription's a Band-Aid. It's not a solution. It's not an end-all solution. They give you a prescription. It's not curing you. It's just stopping you from seeing what's happening currently in your body. And so we need to do more than just a prescription. Sometimes we need prescriptions or different things like that for the extra support. But we can use these tools to actually remove this stuff permanently, to actually create real solutions in your life. And you can take the power back in your life. But it's a measurement. So if you can bounce back and you can be who you want to be in 1 minute or in 1 second, when someone says something to you, then you're right on track. If it throws you off for a couple of days, you've got some room for improvement. And that's how you can use this to measure and to guide into what you're going to do. Now, we go into the work. Now there's 3 main areas to gain your personal power back. So I used to run a mechanic shop. So I had 15 car dealerships and I had multiple verticals. I had a paint shop, a mechanic shop, a finance company, and all these different parts of the business that they were working. But we in the mechanic shop, when we get a car in, a lot of the cars had problems, so we had to fix it. And so we'd go, okay, when we get a car in, we diagnose, remove, and replace. So they call it R&R. If you're in the mechanic scene, or the R&R, you got to swap your transmission out. What's the R&R in your transmission? Remove and replace. It's the cost. So, but the same thing works. It's like we're mind mechanics. So we have these things that happen that change how we show up. And so we've got to diagnose, we got to remove them, and we got to replace them. We got to find them. And so how do we do that? So, to go in and diagnose, we need to be able to recognize these situations. We need to be able to recognize these moments I'm talking about where we have a loss of power. And so the faster you can recognize that moment, the faster you can shut down your time frame, right? You can shut down that time frame, and the further you're going to be off. The faster you close that gap, the further you'll be off. So there's a cool story. Is I think back in 1978, there was a flight that was going to the Arctic, and it took a passenger plane of 257 people, and they're flying. And before the flight took off, something happened. Someone had recalibrated the systems in the plane, and the plane system was off 2% with their chart or whatever the units. I'm not a pilot, so whatever it was showing them where they're going with the plane, it was off 2%. So they took off on their flight. They start flying, and through the journey all the way to the destination, they're flying above the cloud level. Well, by the time they got to where they thought they were supposed to be, they were 28 miles off. Now, what had happened by being 28 miles off is that plane started to lower and descend. And as they're breaking through the clouds, they didn't realize that they're directly on a path to crash into the largest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. And they came down, and they're going through the clouds, and all the snow and everything blended into the cloud base. And before they realized it, they smashed into the mountain, and everyone died on the flight. Now, I know it's kind of a crazy story, but it's to get you to remember that this 2% variance right now can mean everything in the end. It can mean the difference of you being stable or not. The further we allow ourselves to go down these roads and spin out and let life happen to us, and not take the power back in our life, not take the control back in our life, and actually create how we show up, then the worse things can get, and the more things can get spread out and get off. Now we need to remove this stuff. So we need to realize what we've created and take full ownership of it. So it's all about really, really owning and gaining your power back, because when you realize that you are the creator of what you actually are creating in your life, you don't have to feel bad about it. It's actually exciting. And so to go, okay, I am creating these emotions. I'm creating these thoughts. I am the connection between these things that are happening in my life. But that's okay, because if I am the connection, if I am the one that's creating these feelings in my life, then that gives me the power to do something about it. That gives me the ability to take it and actually control it and deal with it and get rid of it, right? And so you can take full ownership and gain your power back, and then replace. So once you realize what you created in your life, you have to replace it with the way you want to be, because we had past programming. So we have subconscious programming. Subconscious programming sets up how we think, how we are, how we want to be, and all those different parts of how we experience life, right? But we have to replace it. We have to give us new programming. We have to teach us new thoughts. So we go through a process, and we get to that point where we replace the thoughts. So we understand where we were at in that situation. We understand what we created, and we recreate ourselves in that position. We recreate ourselves in that position by saying things like I am, and imagining yourself in that situation. So when you have someone that comes to you and they say something that throws you off, you say, I am someone that's not thrown off. I am someone that's powerful. I am someone that can be understanding. I am someone that can deal with other people's situations and clearly communicate mine. without being frustrated so that it can be understood. Because I am is the most powerful thing you can say, because what you say, your words are powerful, and your words come from your thought, and your thoughts create your reality. So it's actually true. It actually is scientifically proven. And so the power, it's that power of thought and what it creates inside of our life. So when you think, what's actually happening when you think? What actually happens when when a thought comes into your mind? So you have neurons inside your brain. That neuron actually fires. It actually sends an electrical signal, and that signal connects to other areas, other neurons, and other parts of your body through electrochemical, connections. And when that fires, it fires off a bunch of different things. And these are the thoughts. These are the thoughts that are created in our brain. And so we have different patterns of thoughts. We have different patterns of thoughts. These patterns of thoughts come from our perspective, like we talked about earlier, and these different things these connections that we've taken. And so we have these patterns of thought. And when we connect those patterns, it creates a stronger bond. So when we think, and my neuron fires right here, and it connects to this one, and it tells my fingers to move, and it tells my mouth and my, body to respond. Millions of, hundreds and thousands of connections are happening every second, all the time in our body. And so these patterns are being built, and they're building strength the more that we think them. So the more that we think them, the more that thought gets sent down that channel. It kind of wears out a path, kind of like a trail. Like if you're hiking, in the forest, you go down a trail, that one's been hiked down a lot. That one's really clear. It's easy to go down. So you go down it. Well, our thoughts are kind of the same way. It builds that trail. It builds that trail of thought. And it builds it. It works it like a muscle. We think about 70,000 thoughts per day. So what are you thinking about, and how does that connect with your life? How does that connect with your goals? How does that connect with the different things that are happening? I got a picture of those huge steps. I went to Thailand, once for a trip, and hiked up this tiger temple that has like 1,300 steps, and they're like huge. But we decided to, go hike that, and I decided before I went to go to the top. But when we have these things where we choose something in life, we want to choose the full destiny. We don't want to limit ourselves, because if we limit ourselves and our thoughts and our goals, then we don't follow them. It's like a runner. If you take a runner, maybe you're a runner out there. Well, if you run or don't run, you might run around the block, you might run a mile, but you're not going to run a marathon. You're not going to run a marathon unless you actually decide to run a marathon. And so you got to set your goals high. You got to aim for it. You got to create the patterns and connect those chemical thoughts to program yourself to be the way you want to be, to live the way you want to live, to do the things that you want to do. So you have to exercise the muscle. You have to master recognizing these losses of power. So recognize these losses of power in your life and get fast at it. Shorten that measurement. We have to create a space where we can think our own thoughts, right? Life's never been so fast paced. When I was a kid, and I've been through all this, fast paced transition in my life. I didn't have a cell phone. Now, everyone has all the information in the world in their pocket. We have all these things that are going off all the time. We have all these distractions that are happening all the time. We have, I read a study the other day. If you have a cell phone, if you set your cell phone on the table in a meeting, your meeting's 8% less effective than if you just hid your cell phone away. So we have all these things in life, these bombardments of distractions and things. Life's fast paced, right? Information, you want it right away. We're impatient. I want to prime it to my house, get it done fast. And like that's how life is. But what's happened is we don't have a space to think. We don't have a space where we can actually have clear thought, because if things are always coming at you, things are always happening, then your whole life is a life of response. Think about that. So if you have all these things, you're just responding to what's happening, then you're not actually creating any real organic thought in your life. So we're going to get into some more things about what we can do about this, but we need to create that space. So we need to take action. It's simple to, write this stuff down. It's simple to talk about. I can come and I can teach you things till I'm blue in the face. You can read all the books in the world and learn all the things. There's great information, but it doesn't mean a dang thing unless you apply it to your life and you do something today. So only you can choose to fail. And so, failure doesn't mean that you failed. Like I said earlier, you are the creator. You can be the creator. So if you don't try, then you're guaranteed to fail. So, and I like this. This is an acronym I heard the other day. FAIL is the first attempt in learning. Now, I don't even have failure in my vocabulary, really, but I keep those things out. But that's part of my mental programming, my mental conscious programming. That every failure in life brings you one step closer to your greatest victory. And recognize who's making that choice. It's you. It's no one else. Now, you are the one that has the power in your life to do things and to actually harness that and roll out and go with it. So I'll go through. I want to have some Q&A. And so I'm going to go through a couple of these things real fast, and then I'm going to open it up to some Q&A. I'd love to take questions. If anyone has anything, any experiences or anything that they want to share, whatever, I'm here to help you guys. But time is a big thing in life. It's a big confuser in life. We have the past, the present, and the future, and it's actually very deceptive because we have these things that like the past. So the past often we use it as a guide, right? We use it as a guide to help us to make decisions today. So it can be very valuable, when we have things we learn, like, okay, yeah, like don't touch fire, it's hot, don't. But we also have, these things in the past that create stops in our life, right? It creates stops in our life where maybe like you went up in elementary school and you're talking and you got made fun of. And so now, you're scared to go on stage, and talk to people. Or maybe, you got dumped by someone that you really, really loved. So now you have a stop with love in your life. And so we have these things in the past, that we bring into today. We carry these things into today and let us affect we let them affect our today. And we don't need to. The past actually can block the potential of the future. When I was a little kid, my grandpa had a quote on the fridge, and I'm not like a big quote person, but I read this quote and it changed my life. And it said, hanging on to anger is like taking arsenic. You're only poisoning yourself. And I thought about that a lot. When I read that. And I thought, that's interesting, because whoever is angry, all the emotions inside them, it's true. And so we have these things in the past that confuse us. Also the future, like there's plans in the future, right? Like people get stressed out, people get worried. Like, what if you have a big event coming up, like a wedding, right? Like the brides and are very concerned about their future. They don't mess with Bridezilla, right? But we have these different things, like, I've got a picture of a test on there, like these spaces in the future where we worry about, but that worry can create a shutdown of who we show up as and who we want to be, and how we experience and how we appreciate our life. So the real truth, the real key is to live in the present. It's actually the only space that we can operate. It's the only thing that's real, that's in front of you right now. It's the only thing that you can actually do. And so what are you doing right now to be the person that you want to be? You're here today and you're listening and you're improving your life. That means something. You're doing something. You're connecting as a community, and that means something. What are you doing when we hang up, to do that? What are you setting in place around you? Because right now is the time to operate. Right now is the time to be whoever it is that you want to be in your future. So, like I said, what's next? We all have blind spots. We all have these things that we can't see. I'm a car nut. This is actually my mirror on one of my cars. it says objects in the mirror are losing. I thought that was funny. I put that on there because I'm a racer. So if they're in my mirror, they're behind me. But what we can, objects, what I mean by that though in today is, objects like life in the past is losing. Like life in the past is behind you. It's gone. It's already done. So we need to operate now. We need to move now. We need to take on what we can do and connect our goals with today. And what are your goals worth? What are your goals worth in your life? And what are you doing right now to support your goals, to live the way you want to live, to be the way you want to be, to show up the way you want to show up as? And I mean your life too. Like on that slide I just passed, I didn't talk about it. I had a picture of Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, but they go, oh yeah, I want to be rich. I want to have this life. I want to be the richest guy in the world. Well, if you get down to it, like you probably actually don't want to. You probably really don't, because you don't want to maybe put in the effort that they did. You don't want to put in the sacrifices that they did to live that life. Or maybe is a status level right now, that'd be nice to have that money, but you don't actually want to live in the prison that Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos lives in, because both of them are divorced. How do you get married when you're one of the richest people in the world and trust that the person loves you? How do you go to buy a Coca-Cola when you're driving from place to place if you're thirsty? You can't even go to a gas station without getting mobbed by people or attacked by people. So they live a completely different life. So we create these things, right? We create these things. And so we live your life, go after your goals, find the goals that you want to hit, and what are your goals worth, and get to the point where you can live the life that you want to live. Now, I run an academy called Formula EQ, and we teach emotional intelligence, and we get together every single Friday, and I teach a new lesson every single week with a business partner. My business partner's in London. We have a global community, and it's all about supporting your life. It's all about you being able to advance, you being able to show up the way you want to show up, you being able to live life intentionally and create whatever it is that you want to create. So for all of you people here, if you're interested in this stuff and you want to support yourself, I love to invite you. I want to invite all of you. You can be my free guest. So this is what I'm doing to try to help to support your community today, because I love and respect and appreciate every single person here. So anyone who texts me, that phone number, 321-421-5213, 321-421-5213. If you text Preston, then I'll invite you to my academy. You can come check it out for free and see if it's something that you want to do to support your life. But if I can get you to do something today, I just want you to take action. I want you to make a choice, and I want you to do something to support yourself, something to help yourself to be the person you want to be, something to build your control of your personal power in your life, so that no one can change you, so that no event can stop you, so that no one can touch you, and that you can be the creator of your life. You can be the creator of every single thing good in your life, and just live it and love it and have it 100%. So this is what I want for you. I love and I appreciate you all, and I open it up to questions or anything at this time.
Preston, this was amazing, incredibly amazing. I mean, I sucked this all up like a sponge. I can't even tell you like how incredible this was and how much it meant to me. I want to start by my first question though. Can you type in the chat that number that you want us to text? And say it again, because I know some folks missed it.
Yeah, so
put it in there. 321-421-5213.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, 321-421-5213. So yeah, we type in the number, and then just as the message, just type Preston. Yes. That's my digital business card. So you'll be able to reach me, grab my phone number. It's my real cell phone. It's not going to put you in some spam thing. And I will text you later sometime when I get out of meetings today, and I'll say, "Hi, who are you?" And then you'll tell me who you are, and then I'll ask you for email, and I'll put you in the guest list to come and visit
So,
my
so
academy.
I appreciate that. It's extremely generous of you. Um, I tell you, I have all these incredible takeaways. I took notes. I love the diagnose, remove, replace
Mm-hmm.
concept and exercise. Uh, um, live in the present. Find your goals and let that, how are your goals going to impact your life? I love all that. One of the things you talked about was you need a space to think. I love that idea of getting rid of the cell phone. And can you elaborate a little bit on that? Is that kind of like a
Yeah,
meditation,
yeah, absolutely.
or
So, yeah, what I teach, or what I like to teach, is basically morning routines. And so with morning routines, I don't know why sometimes my mic doesn't catch on here, so it
no?
jumps
It
on the.
sounds good. I got
But
you. Sound.
yeah, okay. But yeah, it's a morning routine. So we've got like okay, so there's this fallacy of work life balance, right? Work life is crap. It's the same life. There's one life. You wake up in bed at home, you go to work, you come back home. The problems from home go to work. The problems from work go home. It's the same life. And so what we need to do is create a space, right? So we can create, so think, show up, and set yourself up as a foundation. So the way I like to do that is set yourself up as a foundation for today. And you do that with a morning routine. So a morning routine, what I suggest to do for a morning routine is to uh, take time, in the morning, usually with a combination of a couple things. One is some form of meditation and prayer, or both. Whatever you do personally, but it's that time where you don't have anything happening, and it's your clear space to think. And I like to do that before you look at the phone, and before you start to interfere with your thought processes, and before you take on this stuff from the world, to create that space. And you can do it at your own level. You can meditate for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, wherever it is. So you have that personal time where you have that thought, that uninterrupted thought. And then also I like to incorporate, there's three parts: the personal study, into the morning routine. And so that's a time where you can go and you can journal, you can do anything you want to read, you can, nothing to do with your work, nothing to do with anything else, is just for you. Personal time for you, to have like a space that's your little zone. And then exercise and movement, like say, so everyone, right, has a different level too. Like some people are really fit and they go, "Oh, I kind of run a couple miles or whatever every morning," but do something. Like if it's 10 push-ups, if it's before you walk into your home office, if you walk up and down your street before you walk it, whatever it is, do something. So yeah, meditation, personal reflection or study, and movement is the key to setting up your foundation. Because if you do that in the beginning of the day, then you've got a clear foundation for the day. You've got a runway that no one's interfering with to get going, right? Because when we have these other things, then all of a sudden we're operating on someone else's thought. We're operating on someone else's programming, and then we're kind of running that direction. So if we set that foundation up, then you can create the intentions of who you want to actually be, through it. So, yeah.
Thank
Wow.
you. Jamie.
Yeah, so mine's kind of a comment. Obviously, I think it's very important to note. You talk about the 70,000 thoughts that we have a day, and the hundreds of thousands of synapses going on in our mind. I don't want to forget that even though there's all that going on, it's only one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That when you go to raise your hand, each one of those nanoseconds, whatever you want to call them, are one at a time. You can't just do something, we're doing two things right now. I'm raising my hands,
Yeah.
but each thought is one thing at a time to get that to happen. So we can't miss out on that one thing at a time mentality. That's a comment. So.
Yeah, no, I love that comment, Jamie. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. And when you talk about performance and high performers, right, we have these different roles or these different things that we do in the day. And it is, if we can set ourselves up to perform in that task too, So what I like to do, I have this thing called transitions, and where I create my intent in the transition. So I take 2 minutes, and this is kind of a tool for what you're talking about, because we have these different roles, these different tasks we do, like, and I do it from task to task to task as much as I can intentionally do it, where I go, okay, now I've got to, present. So I'm going to program myself to present. So I'm going to take 2 minutes before I do it. I'm going to be like, who do I need to be to show up as? What does that person look like? How are people going to see me? How are going to people feel me? How do I want to send my energy out? And I program myself to be that so that I can hyper focus on actually doing that and accomplishing that. And, but if you can, and clear that space. And so if you can set that tension, you can actually focus harder, because we have these distractions. And then you're not thinking about other things, and you program yourself to actually go carry out that task, that you're trying to do, that micro task. And then, like, when you're done, program yourself to do something else. So like when I'm done with work, I'm a dad. I got 3 kids, 7-year-old twins, and a 10-year-old beautiful wife. And, but when I leave work, I program myself to be a dad. Same life, right? So go back to work. I don't want to bring my work into my home. I don't. My kids don't care. They don't need that. It doesn't serve that purpose, for me to be a dad. So I go, okay, now I'm going to go be a dad. How do I be a good dad? I program myself to be a good dad. I'm going to program myself to be a good listener. I'm going to program myself to be fun. I'm going to program myself to be someone who understands my kids and they understand me, and we create a connection together. And by doing that, like Jamie mentioned, you can focus very specifically on that one task that you're trying to do. So thank you for your comment, Jamie.
That's fantastic. Jeff, you had a question or comment? You're muted. You're muted. Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted right now. Just a quick comment. I got another meeting I got to get to, but I wanted to introduce this book of what Preston was talking about. It's by Caroline Leaf. It's Dr. Caroline Leaf. It's called Switch on Your Brain, 21-Day Detox. And then Preston may be familiar with Dr. Caroline Leaf, but I've attended several of her workshops, and obviously I'm a very promoter of understanding Caroline Leaf. But I want to introduce you to this book, because I can tell you right now, you can start your own personal journey on Switch on Your Brain. And everything that Preston talked to us about, you're going to find it embedded in the pages of this document. And good day and have a wonderful Friday, folks.
Awesome.
Too,
I love it. Yeah, I'm going to have to read that book.
Yeah. Casey?
Yes, I wanted to tell you that for years, you hear these wonderful, encouraging sayings, and you think, I hope I remember that. I hope I remember that. Well, I have a veteran friend who cuts out wood blocks for me, and I make little sayings. I have probably about 50 of them around the house. I switch them up, but encouraging things like sometimes when things are falling apart, they may be falling into place. Just a little thing that, that you come around like, or something like you can't hang out with negative people and live a positive life. And then I'll have little humorous things about my wiggle butts, my dog, when I get angry with him. And I have a little thing that says, Wiggle Butts loves you. And so it reminds me, he's a dog. That's all he is a dog. He loves me. Yeah. So those little encouraging things, when you hear something or you read something, jot it down and remind yourself. Keep a little log of that.
I love that. That's fantastic. Lloyd, you had something to say?
Yeah, a couple comments. One, I appreciate the concept of responding as opposed to reacting. We spend our lives going through the whole day just reacting to whatever happens. And so taking that space to stop and go, okay, what is going on here? What do I really need? How do I really need to respond in this situation? The second thing I wanted to point out was I was very interested in the fact that Preston, you said, use the words I am. I don't know if anybody else got this, but when God was asked who you are, he said, I am. So it's interesting to me that just really reminded me that I am a child of God and I am loved by God. And, I am is very powerful. I just wanted to say thank you for reminding me that I am, I am a child of God. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, Lloyd, you got it spot on, brother. And I don't jump into denominational teachings in spaces that I'm unfamiliar with. But yeah, exactly. No, it is. It's all that I am, it really is. That concept of power, it's that connection to the divinity, right? It's something that's bigger than you,
Yeah.
that you create in the world. And actually, your thoughts, are bigger than you. So I used to run a renewable energy company, and there's electrical generators that create energy. Well, our body is an electrical generator. We literally consume fuel. We have a drink, food, and we consume it, and we process it, and we create energy out of it. But that energy doesn't stop. Our skin is not a barrier, to stop the energy from flowing. So it actually goes past us, and it actually affects the people around us. And that's where the science and the spiritual start to, cross understandings together to get this quantum theory and these different things like that. And so, that's a whole nother lesson, but it's, but I love that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
So, anybody else have any questions or comments for? Yep, good, Cameron. And you're muted.
So I'm new to the group, the chamber. Are most of the meetups on Zoom, or is there any upcoming in-person events that get a chance to connect with people and other veterans?
Yep, great question. So I'll transition over to kind of the close and announcements. Anyone have any more questions or comments for Preston? No. Preston,
Just wanted
again,
to say thank you so
okay.
much, Preston, for your presentation today. We all found it very valuable. Don't be surprised if people start texting you. If you have anything that you want us to send out to our membership as a follow-up message with your email, the links, like you said, anything like that, reach out, let me know, and we will get that out to everybody. This way they can take advantage of your generous offer. And my lights just went out. Back to you, Irving.
Absolutely. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to email me or text me, or you have my contact info. I'll make sure we get it to Christina. We can share it with the rest of the membership. In terms of and I saw it in chat. You had your link. Your
Yeah, I actually found there. I put it again. So I actually found
Okay.
the link directly. So you can actually just go to that link and you can sign up to be a guest at the academy
Fantastic.
there. So that's a guest. That's not a public link, but I went and found it for you guys there. So
Excellent. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, so let me kind of lead towards the close of the meeting. Cameron, thanks for joining us today. So every Friday we meet virtually. It's a 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Central Time meeting. And it's just, more convenient for people to dial in from all over the country. So you don't have to be in DFW. It's a great way to start your day. That's why we have it nice and early. But we have tons of local meetup groups. So where are you out of, Cameron? Where do you live, or where do you work?
So anything in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I live
Okay.
in Fort Richland Hills.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to reach out to you actually and talk to you about maybe creating a what's called a city circle meetup group. So we have Christine Walker here. She's just starting a brand new meetup in Crossroads up towards in Denton County. So we're meeting over there. I have Beth on, and she and Alex lead the group that meet in Carrollton Capel. I and Chris lead a shooting meetup it's called Business and Bullets at the Mission Ridge Gun Range in Plano.
Nice.
Lloyd leads our meetup group in McKinney. So we have another group that meets in Denton that we're reorganizing right now. She's not here, but Jen Colby leads a women, wine, and work meetup group, women only. So there's tons of opportunity. We're growing and expanding. I would love to have a meetup group towards, Fort Worth, North Richland Hills. But there's plenty of opportunity. Now, it's just too much for me to tell specific dates. So definitely join the group, and I'll reach out to you as well to do a one-on-one. We have our newsletters that Christine mentioned that usually announce all the activities. So Christine did not include all the May activities in this newsletter, but most of these groups or all of these groups meet once a month, different times. So, for example, the Business and Bullets meets the third Wednesday night of the month. I think the Carrollton Capel meets the second Monday of the month. Lloyd, when does the
First
McKinney
Wednesday.
The first Wednesday.
Wednesday. Next week
Gotcha.
Wednesday.
Yeah, all of those
Great.
details are on our website under events, and they're actually right underneath the header on the homepage. So you can go in there and check all of those details.
And Cameron, if you give me your email address, I will make sure that you're in the newsletter so you get the notifications about all of our meetings.
He already signed up for the newsletter?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, then
Because
you
I
should
get
get all
those
that information.
notifications. So he's already there. Oh, yes. And don't forget, we have our new coins. Irving, if you want to send Preston a coin, I would appreciate that. But we have our chamber coins for as a fundraiser for our chamber. They're only $10 and anybody can buy them. So you can buy as many as you want and give them out to people because we're a big community, right?
Yeah. So so hopefully that gives you enough information, but definitely reach out, Cameron. Join the group, network. Again, this chamber was formed at the start of COVID. So we started virtual, we will stay virtual, but we definitely recognize the value of in-person meetings, the camaraderie, the collaboration. And so I encourage all of you. I try to join as many as I can as my calendar permits. So definitely reach out, come get involved. It's just a great way. I mean, just from a standpoint of business collaboration, the better people know you, the more they trust you, the more they're willing to work with you. Again, that's just a basic foundation and principle of networking. That's what we're about, but we're also here about supporting each other, helping each other grow. Definitely tap into the group. Again, bringing Preston on today, this was a great, unique topic in terms of how you can take control of yourself to achieve your goals, right? And how you can take control of yourself to tell yourself how you need to think and behave, and don't be a victim of outside circumstance. Next week we're going to bring some other. Next month we're going to bring some other speakers about business growth, business development, business planning. So again, each month we have value-added speakers. Again, I want to thank you, Preston, a true influencer. Someone who understands, just this great subject matter, and I really appreciate, your expertise in sharing that with us today. So with that said, anyone else have any announcements to make before we adjourn for the day?
I don't have an announcement, but I wanted to echo that. Thanks, Preston. Sometimes you hear things that are just at the right time and exactly what you want to hear, what you need to hear. And I think that was your presentation today. So really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I sincerely appreciate all of you. And that's why I'm here today, is because you're all amazing people. And so hopefully something that I said can help and uplift your life. And I really do thank you. And thanks for letting me come.
Thank you so much, Preston. Please be a guest speaker again. So if you want to arrange that with Irving, we would love to have you back in the near future. Casey, I did respond to your text, so I put 2 links for you in the chat room. I hope that you all have a great and amazing weekend. Invite somebody. Preston, do tell about us to everybody that you meet. We don't exclude anybody. So we're very, very inclusive and a very good group to network and do business with. So